Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Congressman, I appreciate your time this morning. I'll get into kind of the political dynamics and the chamber dynamics in a minute, but I want to start with that in terms of, as you look at the path things seem to be headed on right now, how does the cost-benefit net out as worth it when you think about the impact that this will have on people outside of the Capitol building?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And of course, it's a terrible thing to have a shutdown. But I'll tell you what's worse is if our whole economic system collapses. We're taking in about $5 trillion this year, and we'll spend about $7 trillion. So this economic model that we're in right now is just not sustainable. And I dare say that if the economic system completely shuts down, that'll do more than it'll be a little more than discomfort, as you stated in the preamble there, that payday for most government employees is today, and some people are paid monthly and some people are paid every 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll have it there. It will be painless, because hopefully we'll have it all resolved within a couple of weeks.
You say a couple of weeks. You know, what do you think people should think as they watch this play out outside of Washington? Well, I think we get very insular and myopic about covering things like this, but your constituents back home, what should they be thinking right now?
Well, first of all, I don't think it'll take a couple of weeks. Obviously, I've been very much a critic of our work ethic here in Washington, D.C. You know, we start meetings around 10:30 and take a couple hours for lunch and kick off at about 4:30, and then tell America we've been working hard when they've been working all day. And frankly, it disgusts me, but we're here and we need to work. So I think the folks back home understand the fact that we're up here trying to do something, and the conservative folks that I'm one of and the people that I represent understand that we're keeping our word. We are going to make this country fiscally sound if we can, and that's what this is all about. You know, we want to have single-issue payment bills. We don't like the CRs, continuing resolutions, because that's just a gimmick. It's a 30-day CR, and then they tell us, leadership will tell us we need to pass another CR so we don't have to pass any more CRs. And that's like telling a crackhead, look, I'm going to give you some more crack to get you off of crack. But because this country is addicted basically to our great-grandchildren's money. And this is the process. And that's why we're going through this, so we won't have to go through this again.
Connecting this to crackheads was a twist I didn't expect necessarily this morning to take. But the idea of I understand your point. I understand history quite well in terms of these issues, but you guys have basically blocked individual spending bills repeatedly. You guys, I mean the House Republican Conference, repeatedly over the course of the last 2.5 months. So if you're Kevin McCarthy, you're saying, I've put up individual bills. You won't even let us get onto the bill, let alone get through a rule.
No, they haven't. They haven't gone through it like we did in the past, like the way it's set up. It's set up right now. Or in the past, it's been in the last 30 years, we have not passed a budget. It's set up so we go through this process of a continued resolution, and then we do a 30-day, and then we do another 30-day, and then guess what? We're backed up against Christmas, and everybody needs to get home. So they pass what's called an omnibus. And the omnibus is basically the Nancy Pelosi. You got to pass it to know what's in it.
No, I understand.
2,000 pages, and then you read down to find out what's in your district, and then you stop reading, and then you vote for the 1,955 other pages, and that's why we're that's why we're trillions of dollars in debt. That's why we spend $2 trillion more than we take in. It's not feasible, and that's what we want to stop, and that's what we did.
I understand your point.
Last night,
and I think the amendments. What I would just say, sir, and I assure you, I've covered very close to the appropriations process. I know everything that you're detailing right now. I think last night is a good example, though, right? The Homeland bill goes down. You pass 3 of the 4 bills that were put up. If you guys are sinking your own appropriations bills.
No, sir.
Sorry, DHS passed. Ag went down. It's been a confusing couple of weeks. Sorry. But if you're shooting down your own spending bills, DOD has gone down a couple of times over the course of the last several weeks. My point is how do you ever reconcile if you can't get your own bills through? I think that's what McCarthy has been saying.
Well, my own bills. Who are my own bills? You know, you're talking about a defense bill. You're talking about a Pentagon that has never passed an audit. You understand that process, obviously. It's they spend trillions of dollars. They lose billions of dollars. And yet this year that we put $30 billion more into our Pentagon. Now, all I'm saying is and that's all the conservative folks are saying, let's go back to pre-COVID spending levels. If we just went back to pre-COVID spending levels, and I dare say, You or anybody else at the station could name one government program that's been added since COVID that you can't live without. Yet here we are. If we just go back to those pre-spending levels, then we'd be okay. Then we could balance our budget. Jody Arrington out of Texas, you really ought to get him on and talk to him. He is the chairman of the budget committee, and we actually have a budget. Now, he was given his 10 minutes in conference, and they gave him the little golf clap, and everybody patted him on the head. But we actually have a budget if leadership would take it up, because that is what we are constitutionally, and that is what we're really mandated to do. One thing in Congress is to pass a budget, and yet we haven't done it in the last 30 years.
Sir, I do, before I let you go, you are on the House Oversight Committee. I think there's a lot of frustration inside some Republican circles, including Republican leadership last night, with how the first hearing of the impeachment inquiry went. You've been on the record saying that you thought this was very clear in terms of the case up to this point. Before yesterday, after yesterday, do you still feel the same?
Yeah, what we have to do, like my friend Ken Buck says, who was a former prosecutor, though, we have to tie it to when he was president. All the crooked dealings, $20 million, unpaid taxes, all the stuff that's swept under the rug by the Justice Department, that doesn't really matter, apparently. What we have to do is tie it to his current presidency and the $250,000 wire from Communist China to the president's residence. That was after he had announced that he was running for president. So there is a direct tie. And you have to ask yourself, honestly, $20 million of money flowed through that family. They created 20 different LLCs just to launder the money. They didn't produce anything. And you have to ask yourself, why are they not paying taxes? If you and I sell $600 worth of stuff on eBay, we get a letter from the IRS demanding that we pay that.
Can I just ask you, though, because Congressman Buck, as you noted, a former prosecutor, has said that the evidence has not shown that you guys have met the threshold. He's not seen direct connections to the president. You're citing him here.
That's correct. That's why.
And none of the stuff you're laying out has necessarily directly connected to the president.
Well, it's directed to the president in the fact that he says he had no contact with him, and yet the witnesses say he did. And then this last $250,000 wire went to his residence. I don't know, or it listed his residence and him as the recipient of it. I don't know how you say that's not evidence. So, and there's bank records and there's FBI informants that are not Republican or Democrat informants that have said what went on, and they were told to look the other way. So I think there's a lot of smoke there. And I think you have to realize, too, that Democrats are being openly against this president. They are looking for somewhere else, and I suspect they'll throw him under the bus a long time before we will. And I suspect you'll see the governor of California marched out as the Democrat nominee, in my opinion.